Chapter 1. The setup. Carter Brown had always believed that New Year's Eve was less about champagne and fireworks and more about quiet promises whispered to yourself when no one was listening. Promises like don't screw this up again, or maybe this time you'll get it right. At 27, Carter wasn't naive anymore. Love had taught him enough lessons to fill a self-help aisle. Trust is fragile, betrayal stings worse than tequila, and patience, real patience, was the only antidote to chaos. 14 months with Jessica Connors had felt like proof that he'd learned something. She wasn't obsessive. She wasn't dismissive. She was balanced, attentive without being clingy, independent without being distant. They had separate apartments but blurred the lines often enough, 3 or 4 nights a week at one place or the other. It worked, felt adult, felt safe. Until tonight, the party was humming with the kind of energy that only comes from people collectively deciding to forget the dumpster fire of the previous year. Music pulsed softly in the background, laughter spilled from the kitchen, and someone was loudly insisting that resolutions didn't count unless they were written down. Carter had just escaped that debate, smiling politely as 2 friends argued about whether manifesting was science or witchcraft. He scanned the room, his gaze landing on Jessica. She was perched on a couch, laughing with her friends. The one part of her life Carter had never fully decoded. They were TikTok addicts, always scheming up videos that involved elaborate setups and questionable dance moves. Tonight, they were positioned just far enough away to look casual, but Carter knew better. He saw the angles, the way one friend subtly adjusted her phone like a sniper lining up a shot. Great, he thought. They're about to rope me into some viral nonsense. He didn't mind. If playing along made Jessica happy, he'd do it. It was a party, after all. 5 minutes later, Jessica called him over. Carter slipped on his best easygoing smile and crossed the room, sinking into the couch beside her. "This party's fun," she said, her tone light, almost rehearsed. "Yeah," Carter replied, matching her energy. "Good vibes. No one started karaoke yet, so I'd call that a win." She laughed, but it didn't reach her eyes. Carter felt the shift, the subtle tightening of her shoulders, the way her friends suddenly pretended to be deeply invested in their drinks. "Here it comes." "Carter," she began, voice soft. "I love you. You know that, right?" He didn't blink. "Of course." He tilted his head. "Why?" Jessica took a breath, the kind people take before jumping into cold water. "We've been together for a while, and I love what we have, but I think it could be even better." Carter raised an eyebrow, amused. "Sounds interesting. What's on your mind?" Her smile wavered. "I think we should try an open relationship. It would make us stronger." For a split second, Carter wondered if this was the prank. Maybe the TikTok setup was to capture his shocked reaction. Except, he wasn't shocked. Not even a little. He looked at her calmly, like she just suggested ordering Thai instead of pizza. "Sounds interesting. What would that look like?" Jessica relaxed a fraction, encouraged. "Nothing would change between us. We'd just be free to see other people sometimes." Carter nodded slowly, as if considering. "So we'd still be together, but we'd be allowed to spend time with other people? Is that right?" "Yes," she said quickly, relief flickering across her face. "Exactly." Inside, Carter's decision was instant and absolute. Nope, not happening. His relationship with Jessica ended the second the word open left her mouth. But outwardly, he smiled. "Okay," he said lightly. "I think an open relationship sounds fun." Jessica's eyes went wide. Her friends froze mid-sip. This wasn't the script. "Are you sure?" she asked, voice trembling like she wanted him to say no. "Sure," Carter said, standing. "Why not?" He walked toward the door, then paused a few feet away, turning back to memorize her face. The curve of her cheek, the eyes he'd thought he'd wake up to for years, the lips he was going to miss. "Jessica," he said softly, "I only have one question." She swallowed hard. "What?" "If I can sleep with whoever I want," Carter said, his voice calm, almost gentle. "Why do I need you?" The silence was deafening. Jessica's friends stared like extras in a drama they hadn't auditioned for. Carter smiled one last time, then opened the door and stepped into the cold night, leaving behind the sound of fireworks and a relationship that had just gone up in smoke. Chapter 2. The fallout. The cold slapped Carter in the face like an unpaid bill. He pulled his jacket tighter and started walking, the muffled thump of bass fading behind him. The street was quiet except for the occasional pop of distant fireworks and the crunch of his boots on salted pavement. He wasn't angry. Not yet. Anger was loud, and Carter felt quiet, like someone had turned the volume down on his life. 14 months. 14 months of cautious optimism, of thinking maybe, just maybe, he'd finally cracked the code. Jessica had seemed different, balanced, safe. And then, in the middle of a party, surrounded by friends and cheap champagne, she dropped the word open like a grenade in his lap. Carter shoved his hands into his pockets and laughed under his breath. Not bitter, not sharp, just amused at the absurdity of it all. An open relationship. Sure, why not? He'd played along because that's what you do when someone hands you a script you didn't audition for. You improvise, and his improv had been flawless. "If I can sleep with whoever I want, why do I need you?" The line replayed in his head, and for the first time tonight he smiled for real. It wasn't cruel. It was clarity. A car horn jolted him from his thoughts. A rideshare pulled up to the curb, its headlights slicing through the dark. Carter hadn't ordered one, but the driver rolled down the window anyway. "You Carter?" the guy asked, leaning out with a grin that was way too cheerful for midnight. Carter blinked. Yeah. Jessica said you might need a ride," the driver said. She looked kinda stressed. Carter almost laughed. "Stressed? Try detonated." "Sure," he said, sliding into the back seat. The car smelled faintly of pine air freshener and desperation, the universal scent of rideshare vehicles. The driver glanced at him in the rearview mirror. "So, rough night." Carter smirked. "You could say that. Girlfriend drama?" "Ex-girlfriend drama," Carter corrected. "Ah." The driver nodded sagely, like he'd been waiting his whole life for this conversation. "You know what you need? A resolution." Carter raised an eyebrow. "A resolution?" "Yeah, man. New year, new you. Write it down. Make it real." Carter chuckled. "Funny. I just left a party where people were arguing about that." "Then it's a sign," the driver said, eyes gleaming like a motivational speaker who moonlighted as an Uber driver. "What's your resolution?" Carter stared out the window, watching the city blur past. He didn't have an answer. "Not yet." "Don't rush me," he said lightly. "I just broke up with someone 5 minutes ago." The driver shrugged. "Fair. But hey, whatever you do, make it something big. Something bold. Life's too short for safe bets." Carter didn't reply, but the words stuck. By the time he got home, the apartment felt different. Not because anything had changed, his jacket still hung on the hook, his couch still sagged in the middle, but because he had. He dropped his keys on the counter and sank into the couch, staring at the ceiling like it might offer answers. Safe bets. That's what Jessica had been. A safe bet. And he'd played it safe for 14 months, only to lose anyway. Carter laughed softly, shaking his head. "Happy New Year," he muttered. His phone buzzed. Group chat. Of course. Jessica's friends. "OMG Carter, what happened?" "Marcus, bro. Did you just nuke your relationship at midnight?" Carter. "Define nuke." "Marcus, you walked out of a party like an action hero. People are talking." Carter, "Cool. Tell them I'm available for sequels." The typing bubbles danced, then vanished. Carter tossed the phone aside and closed his eyes. Tomorrow he'd figure out what came next. Tonight he just wanted silence. But somewhere in the back of his mind, the driver's words echoed like a dare. "New year, new you. Make it bold." Chapter 3. The group chat explodes. Carter woke up to the sound of his phone vibrating like it was trying to escape the nightstand. He groaned, rolled over, and squinted at the screen. 47 unread messages. He unlocked the phone and braced himself. Group chat. "NYE Legends Marcus, bro. You detonated a relationship like it was a fireworks finale. Tina. Jessica is crying. Like, ugly crying. Liam. What did you say? People are quoting you like it's scripture." Carter. "Morning to you too. Marcus. Don't dodge." Bill. Carter. "She wanted an open relationship. I said okay." Tina. "What?" Liam. "Wait. You agreed?" Carter. "Yep. Then I asked why I needed her if I could sleep with whoever I wanted." Marcus. Tina. Liam. Marcus, bro. That's savage. Like Hall of Fame savage. Carter. "Not savage. Logical." Tina. "Logical doesn't trend on TikTok. Savage does. You're viral." Carter blinked. "Viral?" Marcus sent a link. Carter tapped it. There he was, grainy footage from the party, walking toward the door like an action hero in a rom-com gone wrong. The caption read, "When she asks for an open relationship and you give her the meth." The comments were a dumpster fire of emojis, hot takes, and unsolicited advice. Carter tossed the phone onto the couch and rubbed his face. "Great. I'm a meme." The phone buzzed again. Marcus, of course. Marcus. "Brunch. Noon. My treat. You need carbs and a game plan." Carter. "Fine. But if you order avocado toast, I'm leaving." By noon, Carter was sitting across from Marcus in a diner that smelled like nostalgia and burnt coffee. Marcus grinned like a man who'd been waiting all morning to roast his best friend. "So," Marcus said, stabbing a pancake with unnecessary aggression, "you're single. Again." Carter sipped his coffee. Observation skills on point. Marcus leaned in. "What's the plan?" "Plan?" Carter raised an eyebrow. "I just broke up with someone 12 hours ago." "Exactly," Marcus said. "New year, new you. You need a resolution." Carter groaned. "Not you too." Marcus smirked. "Come on. Last year's resolution was drink more water. Live a little." Carter stared at his plate. He didn't want a resolution. He wanted clarity. But Marcus wasn't going to let this go. "Fine," Carter said. "What do you suggest?" Marcus grinned like a man about to ruin someone's life for fun. "Dating apps." Carter laughed so hard he nearly choked on his coffee. "Absolutely not." "Absolutely yes," Marcus countered. "You've been off the market for over a year. It's time." Carter shook his head. "Dating apps are chaos." "Chaos is good," Marcus said. Chaos is how you find stories worth telling. Carter sighed. He hated that Marcus made sense. Fine, he said. One app, one profile. And if I end up on a date with someone who collects taxidermy squirrels, I'm blaming you. Marcus grinned. Deal. That night, Carter downloaded the app. The sign-up screen glowed like a portal to another universe, a universe of awkward bios and questionable selfies. He stared at the blank profile page, thumb hovering over the keyboard. New year, new you, he thought. Make it bold. Carter typed, bio. Recovering from a TikTok scandal. Ask me about it. He hit save and laughed. If nothing else, this was going to be entertaining. Chapter 4. The resolution debate. Carter stared at his phone like it had personally betrayed him. The dating app icon glowed on the screen, smug and inviting, like a neon sign that read, "Welcome to the circus." He tapped it open and scrolled through profiles. The first one featured a woman posing with a swordfish. The caption read, "If you can't handle my energy, swipe left." Carter muttered, "Pretty sure I can't handle your swordfish either." The next profile was a man. Carter blinked. Okay. Settings need work. He adjusted preferences and kept scrolling. By the time he hit the 10th profile, Carter had learned two things. 1. People really love hiking. 2. Everyone claims to be fluent in sarcasm, which apparently means they've seen Friends twice. He tossed the phone aside and groaned. Marcus owes me for this. The next morning, Carter met Marcus at their usual brunch spot, a place that served pancakes the size of hubcaps and coffee strong enough to resurrect the dead. Marcus was already there, grinning like a man who knew he'd won. Well? Marcus asked, sliding a plate of bacon toward Carter. Did you join the chaos? Carter stabbed a pancake. Define chaos. Marcus smirked. Did you make a profile? Yes. Did you write something clever? Carter shrugged. Recovering from a TikTok scandal. Ask me about it. Marcus burst out laughing, nearly choking on his coffee. That's actually brilliant. Yeah, Carter said dryly. Brilliant until someone asks for details. Marcus leaned back, smug. So? Any matches? Not yet, Carter said. Unless you count the swordfish lady. Marcus grinned. You're welcome. Carter shook his head. This is your fault. Correction, Marcus said, pointing his fork like a lawyer making closing arguments. This is your opportunity. New year, new you. Embrace it. Carter sighed. You sound like my Uber driver. Marcus laughed. Smart guy. Listen, you've been playing it safe for too long. Jessica was a comfort zone. Time to blow up the map. Carter raised an eyebrow. Blow up the map? Yeah, Marcus said. Do something bold. Something that scares you. Carter smirked. Like downloading a dating app? Exactly, Marcus said. Baby steps. Later that night, Carter sat on his couch, scrolling through profiles again. He wasn't sure if this was bold or just masochistic. Then he saw her. Chloe. Her profile photo wasn't a filtered selfie or a swordfish glamour shot. It was her, sitting on a park bench, laughing at something off camera. Her bio read, professional overthinker, fluent in sarcasm, will judge your coffee order. Carter grinned. Finally, someone who didn't look like they were auditioning for a reality show. He typed, Carter, recovering from a TikTok scandal. Ask me about it. Chloe, bold opener. Was it dancing or lip syncing? Carter, neither. It involved math and a dramatic exit. Chloe, intrigued. Tell me more, Mr. Viral. Carter laughed out loud. For the first time since the party, he felt lighter. Chapter 5. Swipe right for chaos. Carter stared at his phone, grinning like an idiot. Chloe's last message was still on the screen. Chloe, intrigued. Tell me more, Mr. Viral. He typed back, Carter. Long story short, girlfriend wanted an open relationship. I asked why I needed her if I could sleep with whoever I wanted. Exit stage left. Cue fireworks. The typing bubble appeared almost instantly. Chloe, wow, that's savage. Also kind of iconic. Carter, I prefer logical. Chloe, logical doesn't trend on TikTok. Savage does. Carter, so I've heard. She sent a laughing emoji. Then, Chloe, okay, Mr. Viral. Coffee or cocktails? Carter blinked. That was fast. Carter, coffee. Safer. Chloe, safe is boring. Cocktails. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Carter stared at the screen, amused and slightly terrified. Chloe wasn't playing. Carter, deal. But if you order something with dry ice, I'm leaving. Chloe, challenge accepted. The next evening, Carter walked into a bar that looked like it had been designed by someone who thought Edison bulbs were a personality trait. Chloe was already there, perched at the bar like she owned the place. She turned as he approached, and Carter's first thought was, wow. Not because she was dressed to kill. She wasn't. Jeans, boots, a leather jacket. Effortless. But her smile? That was lethal. Mr. Viral, she said, sliding off the stool. You clean up nice. Carter grinned. You say that like you expected me to show up in sweatpants. Not sweatpants, Chloe said, eyes twinkling. But maybe a hoodie with a motivational quote. Carter laughed. Sorry to disappoint. They grabbed a table, and the chaos began almost immediately. First, the waiter spilled water all over Carter's menu. Then Chloe ordered a cocktail that arrived in a glass shaped like a flamingo. Carter stared at it like it had personally offended him. You said no dry ice, Chloe said, smirking. You didn't say no flamingos. Carter shook his head, laughing. Your trouble. Always, Chloe said, sipping her drink through a straw shaped like a spiral. The conversation flowed like they'd known each other for years. They traded sarcastic jabs, swapped embarrassing stories, and discovered a mutual hatred for pineapple on pizza. Then came the curveball. The waiter returned with Carter's drink, a simple whiskey, and promptly tripped, sending the glass flying. Carter caught it midair like a superhero, earning applause from a nearby table. Chloe grinned. Okay, that was hot. Carter smirked. I aimed to impress. By the time they left, Carter's cheeks hurt from laughing. Chloe walked beside him, hands in her jacket pockets, and said, So, second date? Carter didn't hesitate. Absolutely. As he watched her disappear into the night, Carter felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Possibility. Not safety. Not comfort. Possibility. And for the first time since Jessica dropped the grenade, Carter thought maybe, just maybe, chaos wasn't so bad after all. Chapter 6. Enter Chloe. Carter had always believed second dates were the real test. First dates were auditions. Everyone polished, rehearsed, performing their best lines. Second dates? That's when the cracks showed. He was waiting outside a cozy little wine bar that Marcus had sworn was romantic without trying too hard. Carter wasn't sure what that meant, but the place had string lights and a chalkboard menu, so he figured it passed the vibe check. Chloe arrived 5 minutes late, breezing in like she owned the sidewalk. Same leather jacket, same effortless confidence. But tonight her hair was pulled back, and Carter noticed the curve of her smile before anything else. Mr. Viral, she said, grinning. Still trending. Carter smirked. Only in my nightmares. She laughed, and just like that, the evening felt easy. They grabbed a table near the window, and Chloe ordered a glass of red with the kind of authority that made Carter wonder if she secretly ran a vineyard. He went with a beer, safe, simple, unpretentious. So, Chloe said, swirling her wine like a movie character. Tell me something embarrassing. Full disclosure. Carter raised an eyebrow. Embarrassing? Yeah, she said, leaning in. If we're doing this, I need to know your worst. Carter thought for a moment, then grinned. Okay, sophomore year of college, I tried to impress a girl by doing a backflip at a pool party. Chloe's eyes lit up. And I landed in the grill. She burst out laughing, nearly spilling her wine. You landed in the grill? Yep, Carter said, deadpan. Charred my dignity and my elbow. Chloe wiped tears from her eyes. That's beautiful. You peaked early. Carter chuckled. Your turn. Chloe smirked. Fine. Freshman year, I joined a yoga class because I thought the instructor was cute. First session, I fell asleep during meditation and snored so loud they thought someone was choking. Carter laughed so hard the couple at the next table gave him a dirty look. Okay, that's worse than mine. Debatable, Chloe said, grinning. The night rolled on with stories, sarcasm, and a surprising amount of honesty. Chloe wasn't just funny. She was sharp, quick, and unfiltered in a way that made Carter feel like he could breathe. Halfway through the evening, Chloe tilted her head and said, So, what's your resolution? Carter blinked. My what? Your New Year's resolution, she said. Don't tell me you didn't make one. Carter smirked. I didn't. Lame, Chloe said, sipping her wine. Mine's to stop dating boring people. Carter grinned. How am I doing so far? Chloe pretended to think. You caught a whiskey midair last time. That bought you points. Good, Carter said. Because my resolution might be to keep seeing you. Chloe's smile softened, just for a second, before she masked it with a playful smirk. Careful, Mr. Viral. Bold moves. Carter shrugged. New year, new me. When they stepped outside, the air was crisp, and the city hummed with quiet energy. Chloe pulled her jacket tighter and said, So, third date. Carter didn't hesitate. Absolutely. She grinned. Text me. And don't make it boring. As she walked away, Carter felt something shift. Not the cautious optimism he'd had with Jessica, but something lighter, freer, possibility. And for the first time in a long time, Carter wanted to chase it. Chapter 7. First date fiasco. Carter had planned everything. Well, mostly everything. Dinner at a trendy fusion spot Marcus swore was Instagram-worthy but not pretentious, followed by a walk through the city lights. Simple, elegant, foolproof. Except nothing about tonight was going to be foolproof. The trouble started before Carter even left his apartment. His shirt, perfectly ironed an hour ago, now had a mysterious wrinkle that mocked him from the mirror. He tried smoothing it out with his hand. No luck. He considered changing, but the clock was ticking, and Chloe didn't strike him as the type to forgive tardiness. He grabbed his jacket, muttered something about the universe conspiring against him, and headed out. The restaurant was buzzing when he arrived. Warm lighting, clinking glasses, laughter spilling from every corner. Carter spotted Chloe instantly. She was at the bar, scrolling her phone, looking like she belonged in a magazine spread titled Effortless Cool. Mr. Viral, she said when she saw him, sliding her phone into her jacket pocket. You're on time. I'm impressed. Had to maintain my reputation, Carter said, grinning. Wouldn't want TikTok to think I'm slipping. She laughed, and for a moment, everything felt perfect. Then the waiter appeared. Table for two? The waiter asked, smiling like he just won a customer service award. Yes, Carter said. Reservation under Brown. The waiter scanned the list, frowned, and said, we have a reservation for Crown. Carter blinked. Crown? Yes, the waiter said. Party of 6. Chloe smirked. Fancy. Did you book us under your royal title? Carter sighed. No, but now I wish I had. The waiter shrugged. We're full tonight, but we can seat you at the bar. Carter glanced at Chloe, expecting annoyance. Instead, she grinned. Bar works. More chaotic energy. They settled at the bar and Carter ordered 2 cocktails. That's when disaster struck. The bartender, clearly auditioning for a flair competition, spun a shaker, flipped a bottle, and promptly sent a stream of cranberry juice flying across the counter. It landed squarely on Carter's sleeve. Chloe burst out laughing. Wow, you're magnetic for chaos. Carter stared at his dripping arm. I swear this never happens. Sure, Chloe said, smirking. You're like a rom-com protagonist. Next, someone's going to trip and fall into your lap. As if on cue, a man behind them stumbled, bumping Carter's chair so hard he nearly toppled into Chloe. She caught his arm, steadying him, and grinned. Called it. Carter groaned. I'm cursed. Or entertaining, Chloe said. Depends on your perspective. Despite the chaos, or maybe because of it, the night turned electric. They shared appetizers at the bar, laughing over the absurdity of the evening. Chloe teased Carter about his royal reservation, and Carter countered by daring her to order the weirdest drink on the menu. She did a neon green concoction served in a glass shaped like a cactus. You're fearless, Carter said, watching her sip it without hesitation. Life's too short for boring drinks, Chloe replied. Or boring people. Carter smiled. Glad I passed the test. Barely, she said, eyes twinkling. When they finally left, Carter expected Chloe to call it a night. Instead, she said, walk. They strolled under city lights, their conversation flowing like they'd known each other for years. At one point, Chloe stopped, looked at him and said, you know, for a guy who went viral for dumping someone, you're surprisingly normal. Carter grinned. Don't ruin my brand. She laughed, and for a moment, Carter felt something shift, something real. By the time he walked her to her car, Carter's shirt was still stained, his ego slightly bruised, and his cheeks sore from laughing. But as Chloe smiled and said, third date's on you, Carter realized something. Chaos wasn't the enemy. Chaos was the spark. Chapter 8. Jessica returns. Carter was halfway through his third cup of coffee when his phone buzzed with a name he hadn't seen since New Year's Eve. Jessica Connors. He stared at the screen like it had just insulted him. For a second, he considered ignoring it. Then curiosity won. He swiped to answer. Hello, Carter, Jessica said, her voice soft, almost tentative. Hey. Carter leaned back in his chair. Hey. There was a pause, the kind that stretched like taffy. Finally, Jessica said, can we talk? Carter raised an eyebrow, even though she couldn't see it. Talk as in closure talk? Or talk as in, I made a huge mistake and want to undo the grenade I threw at our relationship talk? Jessica sighed. I think I messed up. Carter smiled faintly. You think? I wasn't serious about the open relationship, she said quickly. It was stupid. My friends were joking about it, and I thought. She stopped, then added, I didn't want to lose you. Carter stared at the ceiling, amused by the irony. Jessica, you didn't lose me because of a joke. You lost me because you didn't know what you wanted. That's not fair, she said, her voice tightening. It's honest, Carter replied calmly. Look, I'm not mad, really, but I'm not going back. Jessica was silent for a long moment. Is there someone else? Carter chuckled softly. Does it matter? Jessica hesitated. I guess not. Jessica, Carter said gently, you're a good person, but we weren't right for each other. And that's okay. She sniffled. I thought we were. So did I, Carter said. Until you asked me to share you like a Netflix password. Jessica let out a shaky laugh, and for a moment, Carter felt the old warmth between them. But it was just a flicker, nothing more. Take care of yourself, he said and ended the call. Carter set the phone down and exhaled. No anger, no bitterness, just clarity. He grabbed his jacket and headed out to meet Marcus for lunch. When he told Marcus about the call, his friend nearly spit out his soda. She wanted you back? Marcus said, eyes wide. After going full TikTok polyamory? Apparently, Carter said, smirking. And you said no? Marcus grinned. Look at you, Mr. Growth. Carter shrugged. New year, new me. Marcus raised his glass. To bold moves. Carter clinked his glass against Marcus's and thought about Chloe. The way she laughed, the way she made chaos feel like an adventure instead of a disaster. Bold moves, indeed. Chapter 9. Chloe's curveball. Carter had been riding a wave of optimism ever since his last date with Chloe. She was funny, sharp, and unpredictable in the best way. For the first time in months, he felt like life wasn't just happening to him. He was steering the ship. So when Chloe texted, "Dinner at my place? I'll cook. Brace yourself." Carter grinned like a man who just won the lottery. Her apartment was warm and inviting, filled with mismatched furniture that somehow worked together. A record player hummed softly in the background, spinning a jazz tune that made Carter feel like he'd stepped into a movie. Chloe greeted him with a glass of wine and a smile that could melt glaciers. "Hope you're hungry," she said, leading him to the kitchen where a pot simmered on the stove. "Depends," Carter said, peeking inside. "What am I bracing for?" "Risotto," Chloe said proudly. "With mushrooms. And possibly chaos." Carter laughed. "Chaos seems to follow us. Or we follow it," Chloe said, handing him a spoon. "Taste." He did, and it was good, really good. "Impressive," he said. "You're full of surprises." Chloe smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Carter noticed the shift immediately. Something was coming. They ate, they laughed, they traded sarcastic jabs like usual. But halfway through dessert, some decadent chocolate thing Chloe claimed was Pinterest-inspired. She set down her fork and said, "So, I need to tell you something." Carter's stomach tightened. That's never a fun sentence. Chloe took a breath. "I'm moving." Carter blinked. "Moving?" "Yeah," she said softly. "Chicago. 2 months from now." The words hit like a cold wave. Carter stared at her, trying to process. "Chicago. As in, not here." "Exactly," Chloe said, her voice gentle. "I got an offer I can't turn down. Big career move." Carter leaned back, exhaling slowly. "Wow, okay. I didn't want to blindside you," Chloe said. "But I also didn't want to pretend this wasn't happening." Carter nodded, his mind spinning. He just started feeling like he could trust again. Like maybe chaos wasn't so bad. And now, curveball. "So," Chloe said, watching him carefully, "what do we do?" Carter laughed softly, not bitter, just stunned. "That's a hell of a question." "I like you, Carter," Chloe said, her voice steady. "A lot. But I don't want to hold you back. And I don't want to do the whole, let's see where it goes thing if it's just going to hurt later." Carter stared at her. And for the first time in a long time, he felt the weight of choice pressing down on him. He could play it safe, end things now, avoid the risk, avoid the pain. Or he could take the leap, knowing it might crash and burn. Marcus's words echoed in his head. "New year. New you. Make it bold." Carter smiled faintly. "You know what's funny?" "What?" Chloe asked. "I spent 14 months avoiding risk," Carter said. "And it still blew up in my face. So maybe safe isn't the answer." Chloe's eyes softened. "Are you saying?" "I'm saying," Carter interrupted. "I'm not done with this. With you. Even if it's complicated." Chloe stared at him for a long moment, then smiled. The kind of smile that made Carter feel like he just jumped off a cliff and landed on solid ground. "Bold move, Mr. Viral," she said. "New year," Carter replied, grinning. "New me." Chapter 10. Leap of faith. 2 weeks later, Carter was standing in an airport terminal, clutching a boarding pass like it was a lottery ticket. His heart thudded against his ribs, not from fear of flying but from the sheer audacity of what he was about to do. Chicago. Chloe. Bold move. Marcus had called him insane. "You've known her for what, 3 weeks? And you're flying across the country?" Carter had shrugged. 3 weeks of chaos beats 14 months of safe bets. Marcus had grinned. "Fair. Just promise me you won't end up in a TikTok breakup sequel." Carter had laughed. "No promises." The flight was uneventful, but Carter's mind wasn't. He kept replaying Chloe's smile, her laugh, the way she made him feel like risk wasn't a cliff. It was a trampoline. He wasn't expecting perfection. He wasn't even expecting forever. He just wanted to see where this could go. When he landed, his phone buzzed. "Chloe, you really did it." "Carter. Told you I'm full of surprises." "Chloe, meet me at Millennium Park. And don't get lost." Chicago was cold enough to make Carter question his life choices. But when he saw Chloe standing by the bean, bundled in a coat and grinning like the city belonged to her, the chill didn't matter. "You're insane," she said as he walked up. "Probably," Carter said. "But in a charming way." She laughed, and just like that, the tension melted. They wandered through the park, grabbed coffee from a street vendor, and talked like they had all the time in the world, even though they didn't. Later, sitting on a bench overlooking the frozen lake, Chloe turned to him. "You know this might not be easy." Carter nodded. "I know. Long distance sucks," she said. "And I'm not great at conventional." Carter smiled. "Good thing I'm not looking for conventional." Chloe studied him for a moment, then said, "Why did you come?" Carter thought about it, the party, Jessica, the Uber driver, Marcus, all the chaos that had led him here. Then he said, "Because safe didn't work. And because you make chaos feel like an adventure." Chloe's smile softened. "That's probably the best line I've ever heard. Don't ruin my brand, Carter said, grinning. She laughed, and then she kissed him. Soft, warm, and full of promise. As fireworks burst over Navy Pier later that night, Carter realized something. Life wasn't about avoiding risk. It was about choosing the right kind of chaos, the kind that made you feel alive. And for the first time in a long time, Carter felt exactly that. Epilogue. 1 year later, Millennium Park was buzzing with winter tourists, their breath fogging in the crisp air as they snapped selfies with the bean. Carter and Chloe sat on the same bench where they'd shared their first Chicago kiss, bundled in coats and laughing over steaming cups of hot chocolate. So, Chloe said, nudging him playfully. Remember when you flew here on a whim? Carter grinned. Bold move, Mr. Viral. Still your brand, she teased. He shrugged. Better than guy who got dumped on TikTok. Chloe laughed, leaning her head against his shoulder. You know, I thought you were crazy. I was, Carter said. Still am. And I love that, Chloe replied softly. Carter looked out at the frozen lake, fireworks beginning to pop in the distance. Safe bets never worked for me, he said. But this feels like the right kind of chaos. Chloe smiled, her fingers lacing through his. Happy New Year, Carter. Happy New Year, he said, kissing her as the sky lit up with color. No TikTok scandals. No open relationship proposals. Just two people who learned that sometimes, the best resolution isn't written down. It's lived.